hence the German Volkswagen bonds, which enabled German workers to get a car. And the German motor industry boomed. In 1936, military spending in Germany exceeded 10% of GNP, just gross national product, higher than in any other Western European country at the time, after years of limitations imposed by the Versailles Treaty. Military investment also exceeded civilian investment by 1936 onwards. German balance of payments was strongly negative. In 1933 to 1936, exports declined by 9% in value, while imports rose by 9%. In the spring and summer of 1936, the reduced availability of foreign currency constrained imports of raw materials, with some key stockpiles falling to only 2 months' production. Dr. Schacht informed the War Minister, Field Marshal Werner von Blumberg, that the lack of lead and copper prevented fulfilling his request for increased military production. Hitler faced a choice between conflicting recommendations. On one side, a free market technocratic faction within the government, centred around the Reichsbank president Hjalmar Schacht and the Price Commissioner Dr. Karl Friedrich Gordella, called for a decrease in military spending, free trade, and a moderation in state intervention in the economy. This faction was supported by one of Germany's leading business executives, most notably Hermann Deutscher of AEG, Robert Bosch and Robert Bosch GmbH, and Albert Volger of Veriengat Stahlwerke AG. On the other side, the more politicized faction favoured self-sufficiency policies and sustained military spending. Characteristically, Hitler hesitated before siding with the latter, and in August issued the 4-year plan memorandum, ordering Hermann Göring to have the German economy ready for war within 4 years. Historians such as Richard Overy, a great historian, read his book War and Economy in the Third Reich, have argued that the importance of the memo, which was written personally by Hitler, can be gauged by the fact that Hitler, who had something of a phobia about writing, hardly wrote anything down, which indicates that Hitler had something especially important to say. The 4-year plan memorandum predicated an imminent all-out apocalyptic struggle between Jewish Bolshevism and German National Socialism, which necessitated a total effort at rearming, regardless of the economic costs. In the memo, Hitler wrote, "Since the outbreak of the French Revolution, the world has been moving with ever-increasing speed towards a new conflict, the most extreme solution of which is called Bolshevism, whose essence and aim, however, are solely the elimination of the strata of mankind which have hitherto provided leadership and their replacement by worldwide Jewry. No state will be able to withdraw or even remain at a distance from this historical conflict. It is not the aim of this memorandum to prophesy the time when this untenable situation in Europe will become an open crisis. I only want in these lines to set down my conviction that this crisis cannot and will not fail to arrive, and that it is Germany's duty to secure her own existence by every means in face of this catastrophe, and to protect herself against it, and that from this compulsion there arises a series of conclusions relating to the most important task that our people have ever been set. For a victory of Bolshevism over Germany would not lead to the Versailles Treaty, but to the final destruction, indeed the annihilation of the German people. I consider it necessary for the Reichstag to begin the following two to pass the following two laws: a law providing the death penalty for economic sabotage, and two, a law making the whole of Jewry liable for all the damage inflicted by individual specimens of this community of criminals upon the German economy, and thus upon the German people. So Hitler called for Germany to have the world's first army in terms of fighting power within the next 4 years, and that extent of the military development of our resources cannot be too large, nor its pace too swift. And the role of the economy was simply to support German self-assertion and the extension of her Lebensraum. Hitler went on to write that given the magnitude of the coming struggle that concerns expressed by members of the free market faction like Schacht and Goerdeler were that the current level of military spending was bankrupting Germany were irrelevant. Hitler wrote that however well balanced the general pattern of a nation's life ought to be, there must at particular times be certain disturbances of the balance at the expense of other less vital tasks. If we do not succeed in bringing the German army as rapidly as possible to the rank of a premier army in the world, then Germany will be lost. So perhaps the Germans knew about the Soviet Union's intentions. That would be from what I've read of Hitler's war by the son of, it eludes me now, and the nation, Hitler continues, the nation does not live on for the economy, for the economic leaders, or for the economic or financial theories. On the contrary, it is finance and the economy, economic leaders and theorists who all owe unqualified service in the struggle for the self-assertion of our nation, the German nation. Documents such as the 4-year plan memo and others have often been used by historians such as Henry Ashby Turner and Karl Dietrich Brachter, who argued for a primacy of politics approach, that Hitler was not subordinate to German business, but rather the contrary was the case. Against the primacy of economics approach championed by Marxist historians, that Hitler was an agent or subordinate to German business. The British Marxist historian Timothy Mason, who was a leading expert on the economic history of Nazi Germany, argued that after 1936 economic crisis, a primacy of politics prevailed, with business interests being subordinate to the Nazi regime. In 1966 essay, Mason wrote that both the domestic and foreign policy of the National Socialist government became, from 1936 onwards, increasingly interdependent on the influence of the economic ruling classes, and even in some essential aspects ran contrary to their collective interests, and that it became possible for the National Socialist state to assume a fully independent role for the primacy of politics to assert itself. Mason used the following to support his thesis: that after the 1936 economic crisis, German industrialists were increasingly excluded from the decision-making process. That after 1936, the German state came to play an increasingly dominant role in the German economy, both through state-owned companies and by placing increasingly larger orders. That the expansion of rearmament production, supported by a highly economic interventionist state, led those capitalist enterprises not to relate to armaments to go into decline.